Welcome back, everybody, to Fresh Outlook. We've been talking about a lot of topics today, from immigration to E. coli outbreaks, but now we're going to look at some of the more intriguing stories of the week in a sort of level that makes you say, huh. Let's say hello to the Fresh Outlook think tank. I'm joined by Alain Sanders, Albert Goldson, and Tom Vecchia. Forbes magazine puts Vladimir Putin at the top of its 100 powerful people's list. Do you think this is Steve Forbes' way of saying, take that, Barack Obama? Albert, I'll begin with you.
Well, they love to put bad boys on the cover of magazines. I mean, he's a quote-unquote international rock star. He does what he wants. He's a dictator. They've put many dictators in the past on the cover of prominent magazines. So this is really no exception to the rule. And of course, it boosts sales tremendously, putting a guy like Putin on the front cover once again.
And it gets people like us to talk about it, which kind of increases and fuels sales as well. Alan.
Yeah, and we're really going to find out whether he deserves that spot, because we just talked about Syria in the first part of the program. So we're going to see whether he really is such a strong man.
Right. He certainly has very strong opinions, and he has taken very decisive action both in Ukraine and also in Syria. Tom, your thoughts on Putin? If you were advising him, what would you say? Where does he go now with this to build his brand?
He needs to keep doing what he's doing, because he keeps snubbing his nose in the face of anything that's an establishment. Like U.S., he does not care. If we go right, he goes left. He doesn't care about it. If I was advising him from a branding perspective, just keep doing what you're doing. But he also has to play it safe a little bit, because if he gets caught up in his hubris, he's going to fail.
Who else made it on the list? Did Donald Trump make it? Did Barack Obama? The Pope made it.
And Barack Obama was number 2.
Okay, behind Putin.
Yes.
I definitely think that's a Steve Forbes slam on Barack Obama. Is Barack Obama the second most powerful man in the world simply because he's a president of the United States, or does he actually flex that kind of muscle? I'll start with you, Tom, and then we'll go around.
At this point, absolutely not, because although he has the power of the U.S. military behind him, he doesn't necessarily have the support of the U.S. people, so that does not make him the strongest, or at least number 2.
Well, he definitely has the military power, but I'm not sure he has the strategy or the will to actually use that power effectively around the world. And I think we're seeing one of the reasons that you see Putin on that list is because people like Forbes, but not just people like Forbes, many people believe that Obama is not using our strategic position well.
Yeah.
Albert.
I disagree. I believe Obama should be close to the top, if not number 1. No one's going to Russia to settle down. We have the best soft power in the world. So regardless of what you might say about President Obama or whoever is in office, everybody, as far as the world is concerned, if they have to go someplace else, it would be the United States.
All right, let's talk about another man who tops a lot of people's lists, whether that be good or bad, Donald Trump. He allegedly inspired a couple of thugs up in Boston to do some vile things to a homeless man who appeared to have been Mexican. And they said, you know what, Trump is right, let's get people like you out of our country. Is it fair to blame the actions of these two creeps on Donald Trump for putting forth that kind of insightful rhetoric? I'll start with you, Alan.
Well, Donald Trump is a perfect fall guy. They had every intention of doing something nefarious to someone who they perceive may or may not be American. I understand that this gentleman of Mexican descent was documented. So they're looking for inspiration someplace as an excuse to perform these acts. If somebody, a bartender said that, they would kind of grumble. Other than that, Donald Trump is a very convenient excuse for them to go out and conduct these acts.
I have to agree. There are many things wrong with Donald Trump. There are many things wrong with what he says. But you can't just say that because somebody uses your name in defense of an awful act, that is the reason you did it. I mean, I think these people are creeps, as you pointed out, and this is one of the instances where I think Donald Trump gets acquitted.
Oh, right. Tom?
It's not his fault at all. However, he's not running for a reality show. He's running for president. So he needs to understand what he says has meaning. People may listen, so he needs to watch what he says. He's losing in the polls. So again, not his fault. But if he continues kind of this pace, he's not going to get the nod.
One more quick 10-second round from each of you on Donald Trump. SNL, Saturday Night Live, is having him as their host tonight. A lot of Latino groups are upset about that. Should he be hosting SNL?
Well, it's really the call for SNL. And I think it also gives Donald Trump probably maybe his last opportunity to make amends with the Hispanic community, because SNL has such an incredible following. So this is his last chance to make amends and see where he goes from there. Again, he's failing in the polls right now, falling in the polls. this is a last chance at redemption.
Alan.
Well, SNL is looking for ratings, and that's all they're looking for. And I think the Hispanic community that is going to demonstrate against him is fully entitled to do that.
Absolutely.
If you're going to base your campaign on offensive statements, then be ready for protests. And I think it's absolutely legitimate to do that.
Yeah.
Tom?
They should definitely have him on, no doubt. However, it's not going to help him in the popular vote in terms of the Republican primary, because simple fact is he needs to get some policies in place, not be a reality star.
I agree. I think he has a right to do it. I think if you had Hillary Clinton on, which she was just a couple of weeks ago, a lot of what she says is offensive to people as well. Perhaps not as inciting.
And it would have been okay to
violence.
demonstrate against her, too.
Exactly. That's what America's all about. And next we'll move on to this dog that was caught up in some flooding from Texas. And I don't think a flood carried him there, but he wound up in Northern California. Albert, your thoughts on man's best friend finally making home after a long odyssey?
I would like to know how he went 2,000 miles without spending any money. I would love to, follow, his travel agent's program. And I understand they found him because of a microchip. So there's a positive aspect of having literally a chip on your shoulder.
Well, go west, young canine.
Yes.
I mean, what can you do about that? It's a wonderful story, but the wonderfulness of it will be, how did he get there? That's what we may never know, but it's a very heartwarming story. Out of tragedy into safety.
And Tom?
My only question is, did he take a Greyhound?
Exactly. I think it's a great reminder to all of us, and I have two beautiful dogs that I love as much as my children, to get those chips put in them, because you might be able to get your best friend back if he decides to hitch a ride out west, young man. That is it for this edition of Fresh Outlook. I want to thank the Fresh Outlook think tank, Albert Goldson, Alain Sanders, and Tom Vecchia for joining us today. Fresh Outlook is Edwards' TV talk show that does what else but help you keep your outlook fresh and informed. I'm Logan Crawford. Thanks for joining us.